You know, we hear about serial killers all the time, like certain names, they just pop into your head. But today we're looking at a case that most people haven't heard of, Mark Allen Smith.
The state's forgotten serial killer, they called him.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to try and figure out. How does someone who did such awful things just disappear from memory?
Right.
We've got a lot to go through with this one. Court documents, newspaper articles.
He even wrote a book
Mhm.
from prison.
Yeah, crazy, right? So are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely. This case it's more than just the crimes, It makes you think about, like, what society missed.
Yeah, the bigger picture for sure. The why,
Hmm.
not just like the gruesome stuff.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Mark Allen Smith, born in Chicago, 1949. Seems like a normal childhood at first.
Until he's 8 years old, he tries to strangle a classmate.
Yeah. And then just a year later, he stabs another kid,
Hmm.
like multiple times. This kid was 6.
It's disturbing. And what's really unsettling is that, well, nobody seems to really step in. I mean, what could have been done differently? Could this have all been stopped?
It's a tough question. And unfortunately, the violence didn't stop.
No.
He joins the army, gets sent to Germany, and then gets court-martialed.
For assaulting 4 of his colleagues.
Yeah. All of them African-American, by the way.
Holy.
And this is where it gets even weirder. Later, he admits to possibly killing people in Germany while he was in the service.
It's like a whole other layer to this forgotten thing.
Right. Why didn't anyone look into that more? It doesn't make sense. So many potential victims, and no one's really paying attention.
A lot of missed chances, that's for sure.
So picture this. He comes back to the U.S., to McHenry County, Illinois.
Quiet. Peaceful. Nothing like the darkness he's carrying.
Exactly. And this is where his killing spree, the one we know about, begins. 1969, Obie Fayash in Cotter, Arkansas.
Brutal murder.
32 years old. Mother of 3. Abducted, raped, strangled, and stabbed multiple times. I mean, the level of violence is it's not just about killing, it's rage, it's cruelty. What does that tell us about him at this point?
Yeah, it's a big question. But honestly, it's hard to really know what's going on in the mind of someone who can do something like that. Even for experts, Maybe it was just rage building up or a need for power. Some serial killers get more violent the more they kill.
That's a scary thought. And this is just the beginning. A month later, back in McHenry, Jean Bianchi.
27, housewife, mother of 2, disappears from a laundromat.
Gone, just like that. A few days later, they find her body in a creek. And Smith. He doesn't just confess. He tells them how he saw her trying to get away, and he chased her down.
Yeah.
And
It's chilling. Like, he planned it, and he had zero empathy. That's something you see in psychopaths a lot. They don't just react. They hunt.
God, it's awful. And it doesn't stop. February 1970, Janice Bolliard, 22 years old, working the late shift with Smith. He comes on to her. She says no. He beats her, strangles her. And in this case, and with Jean Bianchi, there's something else. He sexually assaults them after they're dead. What is that? Like, why? Is it about control, dehumanizing them, or is there something else going on?
Honestly, that's something researchers still struggle with. There's no one answer. It's different for everyone. But doing that to someone after they're dead, it shows a very disturbed mind.
Yeah.
And a need to be in control even when it's, too late.
It's just sick. And then May 1970, McHenry gets hit again. Jean Ann Lingenfelter, just 17, an honor student. Days away from graduation, he was on a triple date with her at prom.
He lured her into his car, said they could study together, but, he had other plans.
And this one, it was brutal. The town was in shock. And what makes it worse? Smith helped search for her. He found her body.
Talk about manipulation.
Yeah. To be that close to what you did, it's crazy. And when the police talked to him, he said something that gives me chills just thinking about it. He said, everybody has got to die sometime. Like it was nothing.
It tells you everything. This was someone who was completely detached. People weren't people to him, just things.
And this is only the beginning. He confessed to more murders in Germany. There was a trial, a book he wrote, and there are still questions about other cases that might be connected to him. We've got a lot more to unpack here.
He was in control even when he was caught, like he was playing a game. But even with everything, the confessions, the evidence, this isn't the end of his story.
Nope, definitely not.
Well,
He admits to killing those 4 women in the U.S., Obie Fayash, John Bianchi, Janice Bolliard, and Jean Ann Lingenfelter. And in 1971, he gets 500 years.
wow.
I mean, and is that even like a real sentence? It basically means life, right?
Yeah, at the time it did, but you're probably wondering, why not the death penalty with all he did?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Well, see, Illinois, they weren't doing the death penalty back then. It was a whole big legal thing, lots of debate on both sides. But get this. During the trial, Smith just casually mentions he might have killed like 3 to 8 more women in Germany.
Hold on. He just said that,
Yeah.
and they did nothing.
It's pretty unbelievable. Seems like it was too hard to actually charge him for crimes in another country. You know, different laws, not enough evidence. It's a problem with these international cases sometimes.
So he might have gotten away with, like, a bunch more murders. That's insane.
Uh-huh.
And then the prosecutor, he actually said he thinks Smith killed more than 20 people.
Yeah, he thought those 4, they were just the start. Think about it. The crimes that were all over. Different states, maybe even other countries. South Vietnam, South Korea, 5 other states, even Washington, D.C. He wasn't just a serial killer. He was, well, a global one. Moving around, hurting people everywhere he went.
Okay, now that is scary. How did no one notice him? With that many victims, how do you not become famous? I mean, infamous.
Right, that's the question, isn't it? Why isn't Mark Allen Smith a name everyone knows, like other serial killers? Maybe it was the media, or the types of crimes he did. It's something people are still trying to figure out.
It's like being forgotten helped him. No one really noticed him. But even with 500 years, the story doesn't end. He writes this book in prison, legally sane, and he describes everything in detail. I mean, why doesn't that seem, I don't know, counterproductive? Like he wanted to be remembered for these awful things.
It's hard to say. Maybe he wanted to be in control of his own story. Or maybe he was, well, kind of a narcissist. He wanted people to remember him, even for being a monster.
Hmm.
And then there's this. He's living pretty well in prison, sells paintings, takes classes.
It doesn't seem right. He ruined so many lives, and he gets to do all that while they're gone.
It's a tough issue. Prisoner rights versus, well, the families of the victims. And, you know, he gets a parole hearing every 3 years.
Wait, he could get out.
It's required by law. But will they let him out? Almost definitely not. Plus, even if Illinois did, Arkansas wants him too. For Obie Fayash. Life sentence there. So he's basically stuck. But those hearings, they must be so hard for the families.
That's a crazy system. It's like they care more about him than the people he hurt. And, you know, that whole Remington Steele thing.
Yeah.
Choosing a detective's name, a fake one too. It's so weird.
Right. This smooth, fictional guy. And then you remember what he really did? It's like he's pretending, making himself into someone he's not.
It's disturbing. He's done all this, and he still wants to believe he's someone else. So where do we go from here? We've got this guy, he did terrible things, he admitted to even more, but he's, I don't know, almost gotten away with it.
It's a case with more questions than answers. It makes you think about justice and psychology and how they all connect. We've got the timeline, the facts, the mysteries. But there's something else here, something deeper. He was forgotten. But the pain he caused, that wasn't forgotten. How do we understand that?
It's like we open this whole hidden part of history. This guy, he did all these horrible things, and everyone just forgot about him. And to think, it all started with, like, small stuff. Then it just kept getting worse and worse.
It is really disturbing. Those early warning signs, like when he choked that classmate or stabbed the other kid, they were there, but nobody did anything. And, well, look what happened.
It makes you wonder, what if someone had, stepped in? Would it have been different? Should we be doing more as a society to notice these things before it's too late?
That's a really important question. We need to encourage people to get help with mental health stuff, not make them feel ashamed. And we need to, empower people to say something if they see something off, even if it's hard.
Yeah. It's about changing how we think, not being afraid, but trying to understand and help so people don't slip through the cracks.
Exactly. And maybe by looking at cases like Mark Allen Smith, we can start having these conversations, getting rid of the stigma so we can stop these things from happening.
It's a tough subject, for sure. But we need to talk about it. We might never know why he did what he did, but I think we can learn a lot from this.
I agree. We saw the dark side of humanity and how the system failed, and so many questions. But it also shows us that we can do better. We can be more compassionate and notice the signs. So mental health is a priority.
Well said. And for our listeners, if you're interested, there's a lot more information out there. You can start with the Wikipedia article on Mark Allen Smith. And if you're really curious, there's his book, Legally Sane. Fair warning, though, it's pretty intense, but it does give you a look into his mind.
Yeah. It's not an easy read, But it's a unique perspective on this whole thing. And sometimes, the more you learn, the more questions you have. But that's okay. That's part of learning. Trying to understand these hard truths, that's what helps us understand ourselves and the world.
We've definitely uncovered a lot today. The disturbing stuff, the mysteries, and what it all means for us. It's been heavy, but I hope it's been, well, eye-opening.
It has. And as we finish up, I want to leave you with this. Next time you hear a story like Mark Allen Smith's, don't just think about the horrible things that happened. Think about what went wrong. And ask yourself, how can I make a difference? How can we make the world a better place so this darkness doesn't win?
That's a powerful thought. And everyone remember, the more we know, the better we can do. Understanding people, that's how we solve the problems in our society.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.